All right, welcome back. This is still the Polity, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of Kaftan Television. Right now, I've been joined by Mr. Hassan Saldana. He's here to do some justice to the issue of National Assembly leadership and what we can expect in the next iteration, the 10th Assembly, set to be sworn in very shortly. Good afternoon, so welcome to Polity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmadin, for having me.
Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, and you?
I'm good.
It's a while.
Yeah. All right. So let's start with the basics before we go into some specifics. What's your take about the spread and the persons we've seen coming into the National Assembly? What do you think are the expectations like?
Mr. Ahmadin, there was a kind of revolution or a movement that has swept off a lot of senators, a lot of House of Reps in this last electioneering time. That is 2023. Why am I saying this, mentioning a revolution or a movement? A lot of incumbent governors, senators, House of Reps lost their seat. Some even governors, they want to come for a senators, they lost. Out of 10 of them, only 3 were able to scale this revolution or this movement that have changed a lot of histories in Nigeria. When we are seeing such a thing, we believe that the type of assembly that we are expecting is an assembly that have a lot of what do we call it, competent people, people with a lot of avatars, people that means a lot for Nigeria, people that can do a lot, seeing how things have come through the processes by carrying a lot of weight, coming without spending money. People make their choice at all levels of a last election. This is my stance, that we are going to have more better National Assembly than anyone in the history.
All right, let's go straight into it. On the issue of Senate President,
yes,
and the issue of other leadership positions, how do you think this is going to pan out in the House? What are your recommendations or projections?
Yeah. Normally, in terms of sharing formulas, that is in politics, it is about who get what, how, and when. It is your It's just like somebody talking about contributory pension fund. If you are not not contributing anything after your retirement, you're supposed not to have that personal contributory. The only contribution you'll get is maybe that of your organization. What am I trying to say? When the pension contributory are taking part of your salary and keeping for you, and then at the same time your organization is keeping another part of their own what do we call it, responsibilities of doing so. So when you contribute immensely, you are expecting a lot from people. People are expecting a lot from you. But by the time you have not contributed to a certain level, and in politics, I don't understand, I don't believe is that there should be any rationale without contributing. This is the first thing that one will understand. So in terms of sharing leadership or whatever, I think the Northwest is supposed to have the Senate President for the first time in the history of Nigeria. Because if there is anything that the Northwest have never gotten, it is Senate President. And if you look at by history, far and now, there is never a time where somebody won election in this country without having the highest number of votes from that very geopolitical zone that comprise Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Sokoto. So what am I saying in a nutshell? These geopolitical zones has nothing in this time of around that we are talking about, and they have contributed the highest number of votes toward emergence of president-elects, that is Ashwaju Bola Tinubu. So we are expecting the zoning formula to favor this very zone through giving them what we call Senate President in the 10th Assembly. Yes. So by doing so, you are planning against 2027. What am I trying to say? Our lives belong to God. We don't have any, what do we call it, any frictions of saying, no, we will do what we want. Whatever we are doing, is just a kind of planning. But we cannot fold our arms just because we know that we are not certain whether we will reach 2027 or not. But the most important part of it is that one must know that he who failed to plan, plans to fail. So if you are talking about who get what, how and when, and these people have given enough, the more vote we have in this election, and you are thinking that they will go without having a single seat, while they are losing to what we call the president that is coming from their side is going, is finishing his tenure, then you need their vote, because anybody that want to have a seat of government at the center must win this very geopolitical zone. It has the highest number of votes, about 24 million, and then it has what do we call it, a kind of history going at the same direction whenever they are casting their vote in any electioneering year, if you go by history.
All right, you know, some persons might wonder, you know, who could fill this position? Before we talk about some other issues that people might question, let's first, you know, tailor it down to who is this person. Does it ought to, or is it someone that should be from the majority? You know now that a number of there's so much opposition now that if they ball together and perhaps with some parts of the ruling party, they can actually get the Senate, just as we saw in with the case of former Senate President Bukola Saraki, where he seemed to be able to maneuver and get his way. So that being said, who are the candidates that you feel, you know, fit this bill? Okay,
in this contest of Senate President, there are people like Senator Uje Uzo-Kalu, a former governor in Abia State. There is Senator Akpabio, a former governor and a minister of the Federal Republic. There is a former governor and a former member, former governor of Zamfara State, Abdul Aziz Yari. And then there is a former member, a present serving senator, that is Senator Barrow Jibrin, who comes from Kano. In my opinion, he is the only person that deemed fit to be there. The reasons are like this. He was a former member. And when he was a former member of House of Representatives in the first assembly, I could remember he was once a committee chairman on account and public funds, public funds. Then later he was a chairman committee on appropriation. So after that, he went back to the state and served as a commissioner, a chairman of what do we call it, a Kano investment and whatever business that is to do with the state government. And being him a seasoned politician who came from the lower chamber and later became a senator in 2015. When he came to the chamber in 2015, he was made to be a vice chairman committee on petroleum resources downstream, but later was upgraded to the chairman of the same committee. Before the end of the tenure, he was moved to be a chairman committee on that is higher tertiary institution and TED fund. Now he is the chairman committee on appropriation. He is in the assembly for 4 consecutive times. In the lower chamber and in the Senate, he's coming for the 3rd time. If allowed, I think he is the best. The reason why I'm saying this, going by a history, you look at what happened in the 8th assembly during the, what do we call him, Senate President Bukola Saraki. Being him a former governor, before he joined the assembly, in the 2nd time, he emerged as the Senate President. You can see some of his behaviors. He always behaved like an executive personnel, an executive leader. He have that mindset of being an executive who will go to just give an order without listening to other people. And it is as such, there was nothing to write home about in the 8th assembly. We have not gotten it right. when you turn to be an opposition inside your party, it is not something good. It will not yield positive result. Instead, the first tenure of this their government, stay adamant and not moving because of those kind of hostile behaviors from the legislative chamber against the executive. One. Secondly, somebody today is presiding as a Senate president, who is Senator Ahmed Lawal. He was a former member and now a senator for the maybe third time or fourth time. If you look at him, the way he is leading the chamber, there is no crisis. A crisis in days of fighting with the executive is not more there.
So people say that means the Senate is rubber stamp.
It can't be rubber stamp. If you are talking about rubber stamp, you are just deceiving yourself. You can't look at an arm of government like legislators, that is assembly, and call it a rubber stamp, where a lot of things are happening. If you said it is a rubber stamp, are they not the same people that have thrown away the electoral act of Muhammad Buhari as a president? They went and did what they felt it is good for Nigeria, and then can we call that a rubber stamp? If somebody can go against the will or the presentation of the president of the country, we can't call that a rubber stamp. There are a lot of things that have been denied or have been sent back to the president because why? They felt it is not the best for Nigeria, and we believe it is sounding. But when you are talking about working in cordial involvement, revolve within the project and progressive progress of the nation, this 9 assembly have done a lot, and this is just because the Senate president does not have anything to do with what do we call it, mentality of an executive, that is executive power. He was never a governor. But let me tell you, if you look at today, we have an elect president who was a former governor, and that is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. We have the deputy vice president, who is Kashim Shettima, a former governor 2 times. So the first, the number 1 citizen and the number 2 citizen, they were an executive people. So want to deal with executive arm of government as a president, it will come very easy. It will be very more smooth. They will find it more easier than if they have never been in the executive system. They knew that when they were governors, the last box come to their table as an executive governors. So they will perform very better. They will perform excellently in that section. But you can imagine somebody like Uja Uzo Kalu, somebody like Abdul Aziz Yari, somebody like what do we call him, Akpabio, Goswill Akpabio, who are even governors and former ministers, you understand what I'm saying, who have that mentality of being an executive, will come to the to lead the 10 assembly as a Senate president. You know it's a joke. But when you are asking of professionalism, knowing the chamber, working with in tandems of democracy tenet, you know that Senator Barau Jibrin have every certificate going by antecedent and his record. Who is he? Let me tell you, he was given the best the senator of the year of northern Nigeria in 2017. Go and find out. You will see what I'm talking about. When you go to the assembly, you will realize he's one of the people who presented, who sponsored bills that means and matters for Nigerians. When you go to his senatorial district, you will shock Ahmadin. He took places, federal polytechnics there, open universities, a lot of what they call it, sundries down to those places for the benefit of his people. You know that this man has a listening ears. For you to become a chairman committee on public account and public funds in the Green Chamber, and again you became a chairman committee on petroleum resources downstream and later tertiary institution and TED fund, now as a chairman again of appropriation, which he have done that when he was in the lower chamber as a House of Representative, and he did a lot of things. Go to his constituencies where he served as a member, you will see wonders. And now again as a senator, I know you, I told you that you know that he's coming from Kano State.
Yes.
All this revolution or movement that have taken away a lot of cabs in Kano State could not able to touch him. He is the only person from where he is coming, his senatorial zone, that all his House of Reps members, 6 or 7 of them, only one lost the election. But all the 6 have won the election, included him. So somebody that have done that, do you think he's just a mere peck? Do you think he's just a mere answering politician? No, he's a successful politician and a successful senator who can do a lot and make sure that, you see, as I told you earlier, after seeing Northwest is bringing the highest vote from the Nigerian elections, whenever we had something like that, or we have an election in Nigeria, Kano State brings the highest vote to APC than any state in Nigeria in this just concluded election. Go and find out. The margin give the president-elect an edge over the others to move forward than this. When you go to the southeast, for example, the president-elect just had not more than 130,000 votes in the whole southeast. When you go to what do we call it, south, the whole that geopolitical zone, he has less than 1 million. So when you are talking about somebody who gave him about 2-point-something million, just a single geopolitical zone, and then you are saying that people does not want to be given, while we said politics is all about who get what, how, and when. Your contributions means a lot. If you fail to give these people something like that, somebody contested with what do we call him, Ashiwaju, and that is Senator Rabiu Musa Konkoso, a former governor, a former minister, a former SA, a former deputy speaker in the history of Nigerian politics. And still he is nothing to be a president in a nearby. Maybe possibilities there must be, there will be a merger of PDP, new Nigerian People Party, that is his party, and maybe some parties, and come together and wage a war against the ruling party, that is APC. And if there is no anybody that can stand for you there, what do you think will going to happen?
Right, this is interesting. You know, it goes to some of the things that happened in the lead up to the election, the campaigns. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while campaigning in the southeast, made a statement where he said, you know, basically urging the southeasterners to put in the work. That if not, I think his phrase was, they will not get more than a soaked slice of bread, which people took to mean that he was saying you have to deliver so that I can reciprocate. But the issue is, taking into account the balancing of the country, there are 2 issues here. If a Northwesterner, yes, particularly Senator Jibrin that you mentioned,
from Northwest,
yes, he's a Muslim. You know, that means that the first 3 positions in Nigeria will be occupied by Muslims. Currently, the House of Rep is even occupied by Muslims. We don't know if he will return. So that's one issue. The second issue is, in this current iteration of the government, we have a a Northwest president, Southwest governor, Northeast Senate president, and then a Southwest House of Reps. So in this iteration, there is no South-South, there is no Southeast. Now we're having another government. Would it really be fair to not have any of these 2 once again in the new cycle?
Okay, let me take you back to history. History doesn't lie. President Olusegun Obasanjo was a president in Nigeria. You remember that? When the Senate president was a Christian. You understand what I'm saying? When we have Attorney General was a Christian. All these things, people must understand that we must keep this religion sentiment, religion thinking with the name of balancing. No, just and fairness is the only one that guides and leads to success. Whenever we continue talking about a religion or a tribal or geopolitical experiment and the political class, we will not go where we want to go. Let me give you an example. Again, when Jonathan became a president, he came from minority. He is from Ekwere, Ijo by tribe. And how many states you will find Ijo? A complete state that this state is belong to Ijo. But because Nigerians felt, yes, he is our own, he is supposed to be our president, PDP was having 14 governors from the north out of 19 states. We were the north was having the highest number of what do we call it, governors out of them. and they voted for what do we call him, President Goodluck Jonathan. Then during him, you have his vice, Malam Namadi Sambo. Then you have his Senate President, what is his name, David Mark. Then you have his Speaker, first Speaker, Patricia Ete. The Chief Justice of the Federation was who? Aondoka. What is his name? No. Katsina Alu was his justice, and then Aondoka. So what we are talking about, when you go to the southeast, where they had first Senate President Evans Eworem, second Senate President Chuba Okadibo, third Senate President Wabara, something Wabara, then fourth Senate President Pius Aim. Go and find out, Mr. Amadin. There is nothing to show that they have done for that very area. But today, this very present government has done more than enough in the history of this democracy. From 1999 to date, there is no government that has provided dividends of democracy to Southeast more than APC. The second Niger Bridge, are you talking about that? When you are going to Benue, through Obolo and enter Enugu, there is a new bridge there, local bridge, that is Benue, Nasarawa State. When you go to those places, there are some areas that there was never a road if you an age of 35 to 40, because you have no opportunity to know that those roads are expressway in the southeast. But by this government presence today, you can realize that those roads were made to be an express. Only that some people came and bastardized that opportunity. It is only this government that started giving the ABBA marketers for producing uniform for the military, uniform for NYSC, boot for the NYSC, boot for the military. It is only this government that gave an opportunity for production of local vehicles for Nigerian security agencies. Innocent Motors, and Innocent is in the south east in Anambra State. It is only this government that was able to pay the Biafran's police pension. Go and find out. But still, they are scoring 130,000 in electioneering per time. That means the statement that we are talking about, we were expecting them to appreciate this very number of, what do we call it, this very number of dividends of democracy that have the witness in the government. Even when you go to the market, it is in this government they provided solar panels system that you don't need electricity in ABBA market or any international standard market in the southeast. But still, maybe the change or the thinking is not with the APC. So when you make an accidental discharge again and give a lot of opportunities, there are things that you cannot deny. Every state has a right to be given a minister, and if you have dare not to give a state minister, I am just telling you, you have contravened the constitution of Nigeria, and you must have to do that. You can't do that. Every state must be given a minister, even in the mentioning with FCT, but the FCT are the only ones that have not been enjoying that what do we call it, processes or that dividends. So another positions are there in the government that you know that it is headed by the southeast. My only problem is that people should not use a word that's supposed to help us to grow Nigeria with propaganda. No. Imagine this, our allies, they drink and wine together. It is people of our level and below are fighting and killing themselves. But I'm just assuring you that if you go to the houses of this our allied, you find an Igbo there, a Yoruba there, and whoever there. One of our elder in the north, Alaji Tanko Yakase, who is over 90 years, who has more than 40-something children, who have over 100 grandchildren. His wife, one of them, is an Igbo woman. So tell me where we will going to be talking about that. But when we are talking about rationalism, professionalism, we are talking about advantages to move the National Assembly, grow very fast, and you will see it in a plain truth. Senator Jibril Barau is the result, is an alternative. He is the answer. Because what I'm saying here is that for him to stand all this while and make sure and assuring and delivering a lot of goodies to his constituency, you must to understand that he is not a daft. He is somebody that goes with the wall at the moment with a progressive mind.
All right, so one final question. Let's assume, for the sake of this conversation, that it is now a gentleman's agreement that it should go to the Northwest. He's not the only person from there. There will be definitely others saying, why not me? My states, we won it. Kano states, you might have won your seats, but you lost the state. So what do you now use to put him above the rest from his own zone?
With the loss of a vote we have, which NNPP won in the presidential poll. You understand what I'm saying? Still, we pulled the highest number of votes in APC from each and nooks and cranny of Nigerian states. There is no state that gave the number of votes APC gave in Kano state. Secondly, the advantage he had over the other people is this. I told you that it is gone the days to have another National Assembly Senate president as a former governor. For what reason? He has a mindset of being an executive leader. So for that reason, he will be creating friction for the movement and the smoothness of that very assembly. I gave you an example with somebody like Senator Bukola Saraki, who wanted Oton to be an opposition overnight inside his party, because he has the mind and thinking that he's a former governor. But this, since we are talking about moving forward, if you look and pick somebody like Ahmed Lawal, you can testify that there was no crisis. The only thing that they will tell you is that they have turned to be a rubber stamp. But I give you an instance, an example that the same Ninth Senate were able to kick against the will of Muhammadu Buhari as a president when it comes to what? To electoral acts. And this electoral act they kicked against have helped you, helped me, and helped everybody. And that means they stood for the right thing. And we have to appreciate them. By that time, those that are in the executive power were feeling that they were kicking against them. But when it was read over, the people understand that even what they picked is against some of them, or many of them. In the primaries, many of the House of Reps and the senators have not come back. They lost since from the level of primaries, if you remember. So if you said that the National Assembly, who went against the will of the President bill about the Electoral Act, and just choose to put their own, and they asserted, and it became a law, are the most successful. Not the one that is fighting from the beginning to an end, cannot show an instinct of achievement, single one, during the process or during his stewardship as a Senate President of the National Assembly at the 9th Assembly. But now we can see what these people have done. When you go to the South, the two deep ports have been, what do we call it, drill up. It has now, the depth has been elongated where big ships can be there. Port Harcourt and Calabar. So if we are talking about free leadership, where the, what do we call it, the executive, the legislative and the judiciary will feel that, yes, we are carried along. People like Senator Jibril Barau are ahead of anybody in this contest.
All right. I don't know if you can make it in a couple of seconds, but what can we expect, assuming he does come in, with the management of so much opposition around? How do you think he can handle that? You see, can just round up very... That
is why now I'm talking about him. Being a national legislative member all the way from 1999 to date, because he has the experience of leadership, where he can imbibe everyone. I can tell you with authority, I have seen a lot of people of opposition, newly opposition, coming to him. Labour, SDP, all mention those ones that have won. I have seen 4 to 5 people coming to see him because they believe that he will lead from the front. And by so doing, the Nigerian legislative will excel. By so doing, Nigerian legislative will excel to, what do we call it, promised land. That is a staging of fast growing in democracy.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Saldana. It's been an interesting conversation on this segment. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's all we'll take on this segment of the program. I will go on a break. When we return, the Polity continues.